just crossed this stream. It's pretty interesting. I can see the road through the bush here, and I can see the cars driving past. Overall, this sort of life, day after day after day, fairly miserable existence for 3 young kids.
A runaway dad and his children.
And I can understand perhaps, back then 4 years ago that he could have been considered a bit of a folk hero, but as time went on, that became just a myth.
An armed standoff.
For 4 years we have known that Mr. Phillips has been armed, he's been dangerous, and he has been motivated.
And tragedy.
Our officer has been struck in the head.
This is the exact spot where Tom Phillips was shot dead by police in that early morning shootout. You can actually just see a dark patch on the road below us. That's blood.
This is devastating. It's not the outcome we wanted.
This is a story which begins in the tiny coastal Waikato settlement of Marakopa. Phillips was shot dead about 30 kilometres away on Te Anga Rd, the main route into Marakopa.
So from the air you start to get an appreciation of the challenge that police have faced over the past 4 years looking for this fugitive. There's a lot of farmland around here, but then it just goes into acres and acres of really dense bush.
Phillips first disappeared with his children on September 11, 2021. His Toyota Hilux found abandoned at the tide line at Kiritihiri Beach. 19 days later, after a significant search by police, he returned to the family farm saying he'd been camping with the kids. He was subsequently charged with wasting police time. Just over a month later, he fled with his children again.
From our point of view, this is straight out about custody of the children.
Phillips proved extraordinarily elusive in the years that followed, spotted only intermittently on security cameras, including at 2 Bunnings stores in August 2022. The camping gear he purchased, including distinctive green buckets, batteries, seedlings and torches, helped him and the children live in solitude in the bush.
Items here on the ground. Look at this. What looks like the edge of a bucket. No idea if it was anything to do with Phillips, but highly likely. And I don't know what this is, but clearly not part of the forest.
Over the years, police made extensive efforts to find the fugitive.
What they've always been clear about is that Phillips, during this 4 years, has been very mobile, and it's believed he had multiple hideouts dotted around this countryside.
Official information obtained by the Herald shows police set up 28 motion-activated cameras during their 4-year investigation. None of them helped police find Phillips, who had at least 2 primary campsites deep in the bush to the north and east of Marakopa. His downfall would be relocating to a temporary hideout near Waitomo, where he broke into a farming supplies store in the rural township of Piopio.
This is Piopio, a tiny western Waikato town known for its berry orchards, farming and cafes, and it's a town not far from the famous Waitomo caves. But it's also a town that was recently frequented by the now deceased Tom Phillips. And it's where a 4-year-long manhunt for the fugitive would ultimately come to an end.
A break-in at this farming supplies store would be Phillips's last. His quad bike laden with stolen kit, he set off with his daughter intending to return to his bolt hole in the bush. Tracked by a lone rural cop who had road spikes in his patrol car, Phillips wouldn't make it back.
So this is where Tom Phillips' quad bike hit spikes and then it's come off the road, smashed into the bank. You can see the two big gouges out of the side of the road there. And it's at that point that Phillips has used his .308 and fired multiple shots at police. We know that there were at least 4 bullet holes in the windscreen of that constable's car, the first police officer who responded. And what sources have told me is that shortly after those shots rang out across this valley, you had a second patrol car turn up. In that vehicle was a dog handler and also a member of the Armed Defenders Squad. And it was the AOS officer who took that shot that ended it all for Phillips. And the only real evidence left on the roadside here is these shards of glass. They're all over the road, clearly from the windscreen of the police vehicle when Phillips was shooting at it. And you can just imagine the intensity of that night when that second patrol unit turned up. It's pitch dark and he knows that one of his colleagues has been shot and then he has to take the shot at Phillips.
At 3:59 a.m. on September the 8th, Police Commissioner Richard Chambers sends a text message to Police Minister Mark Mitchell with news. Police called to a break-in, he said. Suspect on a quad bike. Officer approaches and has been shot in the shoulder. Suspect then shot by police and has died, the Commissioner said. Believed to be Tom Phillips.
There seems to be a fair few New Zealanders who think that Phillips is some sort of folk hero. What's your view on that, Sandra?
No, I've never seen him in that light. Anyone who takes their children away like this for a long time, causing stress for their family, no, I don't see him in that light at all. But I am sorry it ended the way it did. If it had come out and given himself up, I would have been happy. So that's how it goes.
The Morgans farm backs on to where Phillips was shot on Te Anga Rd. As it transpired, Phillips's Waitomo hideout was just up the road.
Have you been into that area before or hunted around the vicinity?
Yes, I've hunted all through there.
What's the terrain like?
Pretty rough in places. Some of it's not too bad.
So would you walk through that bush or horseback?
Yeah.
Or?
You know, I was on horseback back in those days, so you had to pick and choose your paths a wee bit then. But I've been through on foot as well.
Did you think that he may have been deeper in the bush out here?
Oh yes, definitely.
So this is where Phillips would have come out on the quad.
We measured the distance from the shooting to his bush hideout.
So the scene of the shooting's coming up just here. Because it's interesting to look at this from the perspective of how close he was to getting away from police yet again. As we know, his campsite is really, really quite close, just up Te Anga Rd here.
Just 7 kilometres from the shooting, a forestry track. A short walk from the track entrance, and we found the area where police investigators had previously gathered.
This is the rubbish. This is what we saw from the air. We know that police had sort of encircled this area. Right about here, you can actually see where the quad was. You had the quad bike and the motorbike right next to it. We could see it from there.
So we've come across quite a significant area of police activity here. It's probably only about 500 metres off the main road, Te Anga Rd, where Tom Phillips was shot. And I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 police cars down there, plus another vehicle with a trailer on the back, a quad bike, a motorbike, and what looks like quite a significant pile of debris.
So we're only about 5 minutes walk from that rubbish site and the same place that police were using as a bit of a staging area, and we saw Phillips's quad bike and his motorbike. So this is a forestry track, and over here is actually a fairly thin strip of bush. On the other side of this bush is Te Anga Rd, and right here, this is the entrance. This is where Phillips would have been trying to go that morning before he was hit with the spikes and shot dead by police. This is the entrance right here. It's only a 5-minute walk, few hundred metres from Te Anga Rd itself. We're going to further come down into the bush here, and you can see already indication here on the ground of police coming through and clearing away some of the scrub, some of the ferns that are in the way. And this right here, this looks a lot like the place where Phillips was storing his quad and his two-wheeler. From the police photos, we know that right about here, there was a tyre up against this tree. A couple of tyres, there were the Sprite cans on top. You had the quad over here and the two-wheeler in here. So this is essentially the storage site for his heavy equipment that he couldn't take any further into the bush. So yeah, not far from Te Anga Rd, not far at all. You can actually hear trucks from in here going past. Now we know the police said that the sleeping quarters, if you like, or what appeared to be the sleeping and eating quarters, was only 200 metres from this first site. I mean, there's actually a track down here, so it's possible that this area has been used by pig hunters in the past. There it is, down there.
Phillips' belongings had been seized, the campsite upended.
So this area looks very much like where Phillips was sleeping and eating with his children. It's obviously been dismantled by the police, changed quite a bit, but this is a pretty significant dig out and trench down here, covered from the air by ferns and the big pines up there, so pretty well covered and camouflaged in terms of any sort of searching that's going on. And we come through here, so you can see trees that have been cut down. I mean, this one here has obviously been cut with a saw. We know Phillips was using logs to build huts. Again, we're on pretty steep terrain here. Wouldn't have been super comfortable, but when you've dug trenches into the side of the hill here, it makes it a bit more hospitable in terms of sleeping and eating and existing.
Further down the hill, another site, complete with a neatly piled collection of posts, all cut to the same length.
So here's another area. We're probably about, again, another 200 to 300 metres away from where the sleeping area was, or where we think it was, that trench that was dug out. And there's another hole here. Whole lot of sticks. These have clearly been cut down, used for something. So we'll keep on going further down into the gorge here and see what else we find. And here we go. Freshwater stream. Obviously a key for Phillips and his kids to have running water like this just a few hundred metres away from where they were sleeping and eating. Again, not far distance from where the bikes were kept. And it's pretty interesting. I can see the road through the bush here, and I can see the cars driving past. But he's still very well camouflaged in here. Phillips was not actually deep in the bush, but just a few hundred metres from the main road, heading towards Waitomo Caves.
The bike storage area, the trench used for sleeping and eating, the third site, and the water supply are all within close proximity. The ever-elusive Phillips was hiding in a clump of trees so small that in a straight line, the distance between the camp entrance and the main road is only 129 metres. From the stream, we decided to circumnavigate the entire area and head uphill to a clearing.
So we've just gone through the bush, up past Phillips, two campsites that police release those images on. We're back on the main road where we entered, which is just further up here, all pretty close to civilization. So we've just finished traversing essentially this whole area of bush where Tom Phillips had been staying. We're sitting here in his storage area where his quad bike and his motorbike were being kept. Sun is gone, it's almost pitch dark, and it's only around 6:30 p.m. So I think what's most interesting about coming in here is just how close the camp is to the road. If Phillips and his kids were asleep down here, you would absolutely hear any sort of vehicle coming up this forestry track just behind me. It's not in deep bush. The terrain is steep, but it's manageable. It's so quiet. All I can hear at the moment is just that the water down here, the stream where Phillips and his kids would have likely gone each morning. But apart from that, absolutely nothing. You hear the odd moorpork, you can hear possums, but overall this sort of life, day after day after day, fairly miserable existence for 3 young kids.
This 4-year saga is of course not over yet. Not by a long stretch for the children who remain in the care of Oranga Tamariki, and certainly not for the police, who are now investigating who helped the renegade dad during his time in the bush.